twice. Obviously, I'm not sure you've read this whole book. I get the impression a lot of you haven't, because you don't seem to be with me on what's coming. Anyway, that's the reason I'm trying to emphasize this. Let's go along here. Chapter 12. It's Moses and Aaron again. This is the first month of your year. So the Hebrew year begins in April, the Passover time. And of course, Passover, as you know, is Easter time. And the Jewish word for Passover is Pesach. In all the European countries, the word is retained for Easter. Only in Germanic English languages is Easter the word. What's the Spanish word for Easter? Pascua, Pesach. And in East Scandinavia, it's Fesik, Pesach. And in Italian, it's Pasqua. And in French, it's Pâques, and so on. Only Easter comes from a start day. Has to do with the goddess's start day. It's, of course, nothing whatever to do with Jesus, and it's a Germanic Anglo translation of what it is, but Easter is Passover with a new interpretation, and it's the beginning of April period, beginning of it's the spring, the renewal period, and so on. But I don't need to go into all that with you. I'm just telling you that, in case you don't know it, Passover and Easter are the same thing. It's just that it's been reinterpreted into the New Testament in the way we are familiar with it, and called in English Easter, when in fact in all Latin countries and Greek and everything it's still Pesach, Pascua, Fesik as the Scandinavians call it. I don't know the German word for Easter.
Osterisch?
Yeah, that's maybe, so that's where they get it from, the start day origin. Anyway, leave that aside. This is the Passover, and that's what this whole thing has been about, to get the ceremony for Passover, the first month of the year. On the 10th day, every man shall take an animal, and you'll have this sacrifice, and the blood should not be eaten, 2 doorposts and the lintel. You put the blood on the doorposts and so on. Eat unleavened and bitter herbs. It's all part of the commemoration, which obviously is a very traditional thing, even by the time this is written. So even when this is written, the festival is already deeply entrenched, and this is explaining the festival. Just like the pilgrimage to northern Spain, where the pilgrim route that's famous to Santiago de Compostela. The people have sandals and a staff, and they stop in different rest sites. If you know the famous pilgrimage that's still celebrated today in northern Spain, this is already gone. This kind of thing has already been going on here. Everyone is supposed to girdle their waist, put sandals on their feet, a staff in their hand, and so on. So it's part of this pilgrimage festivity commemorating the Exodus. I think the Exodus has a real origin, regardless of what scholars say otherwise. Some scholars know. And I will pass over your doorpost, line 13, when I see the blood. No work is to be done, line 17. It's the Feast of the Unleavened Bread, and you'll do that from age to age, line 18. It's an irrevocable ordinance. So again, anyone who reads the Bible, this ordinance is not irrevocable. It's not revocable. So again, whether it's be reinterpretable, I don't know. Oh, here it is, line 40. This is the time the sons of Egypt the sons of Israel spent in Egypt, 430 years. And line 35. The sons of Israel did as Moses had told them and plundered the Egyptians for silver, ornaments, and gold, and clothing. And they, God had given them such proceeds that the people gave them what they asked for. So here it is, plundering the Egyptians when they go out, and I think that's because later they're going to need to construct the ark. Maybe we should pass around another attendance sheet now to see who the escapees were. How about that? I'm going to give the people credit to, here, let's do, we'll call this 10/19/05, after the escape for the faithful. Here, let's pass that one around now. Okay, so there's the 430 years I was telling you about. If you see it, it's on line 41. And again, there's a second notice about plundering the Egyptians, line 35. More about the Passover. No alien, but a slave bought for money. You have to circumcise him first, though. This is why you have the argument in early Christianity, do you have to circumcise him? The James party says you do, the Paul party says you don't. Any Hebrew in Palestine would say, before you're entitled to the promises of the covenant, you have to come into the covenant and sign, I don't care if people circumcise or don't circumcise, it's no business of mine, but if you're going to be part of the tradition, the sign of the covenant is circumcision. So if you want the promises of the covenant, you can't come in and have the promises according to the covenant and then claim that these other things. If you want to follow a Greco-Hellenistic mystery cult, which is fine, and I don't see anything wrong with a Greco-Hellenistic, but you shouldn't plug a Greco-Hellenistic mystery cult into the Moses events, which is what's been done. And I don't feel that that is fair, and the history of it has been terribly tragic for both sides. Certainly Christianity is a beautiful religion, and there's nothing wrong with the kind of practices that it follows, and so on and so forth. But the way it's treated its Hebrew origins has been atrocious and has led to holocausts. And it's very sad, in my view, that that should be the case. If you don't like the tradition out of which you come, don't tack it on to that tradition, is what my response would be. No one's listening to me on this subject, but unfortunately we have to reckon with these terrible things that have been done. And I don't know the answer, but I do know that in the Pauline corpus there's tremendous hatred. For someone who's preaching love, there's tremendous hatred. And it all goes back to this issue here, the circumcision problem. And the Old Testament's very clear about this. So my response to Paul would be, okay, if you don't want to deal with this issue, don't use the Old Testament. But he wants to use the Old Testament. He wants to pick and choose. He wants to take what he likes and throw away what he doesn't want. But I don't think that's, I don't think it's fair to the literature of the people that you're dealing with that produce all these other problems. You say, well, he's entitled to do that. Well, if you read what he does, he isn't entitled to do that, because what he's really doing is what's called allegorical interpretation of Scripture. It was instituted in Egypt by Philo of Alexandria, who I think he knows, and Philo wanted to interpret everything allegorically. And he's got books and books and books that have survived on this subject of the allegorical interpretation of the Old Testament. All Paul is doing it with the Jesus events. And he's allegorical